It was the day I saw Cynthia, the poor maid, standing by the window of Mr. David's house, her face glowing with something I couldn't place. Hope, maybe, or maybe it was just a look of someone about to change their life. I had known Cynthia for years. She had worked for Mr. David ever since I could remember. She was quiet, always cleaning or running errands. No one ever really noticed her, because she was just the maid, a girl from a poor family who had little to her name. But that all changed the day my best friend, Richard, came to visit Mr. David. Richard had always been a man of importance. He was wealthy, successful, and often made business trips to different parts of the world. That day, when he stepped into Mr. David's house, his eyes went straight to Cynthia. I don't know what exactly caught his attention. Maybe it was the way the sun hit her hair, or maybe something in her smile, but from that moment, he couldn't stop thinking about her. At first, I didn't think much of it. Richard often talked to all kinds of people, and it wasn't uncommon for him to strike up a conversation with anyone. But there was something different about his interest in Cynthia. He began visiting Mr. David's house more often, always looking for reasons to talk to her. I remember one afternoon when Richard finally spoke to her. She was in the kitchen, washing dishes, and he came in with a glass of water. They talked for a few minutes, nothing serious, just casual conversation. But as I watched them, I could see something was happening. Richard was falling for her. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would a man like Richard be interested in a poor maid like Cynthia? But I guess that's how life works sometimes. Richard wasn't like others. He saw something in Cynthia that no one else did, a quiet strength, a kind heart, and a rare beauty. It didn't take long before he started doing things for her. Small things at first, buying her clothes, bringing her gifts. But soon, it became clear that Richard wasn't just being kind. He was falling in love. Within months, Cynthia's life had changed. Richard asked her to marry him, and she said yes. It was a shock to everyone, especially Mr. David, who had known Cynthia as just the maid. But Richard didn't care about that. To him, Cynthia was someone special. Cynthia's wedding was a grand event. She went from being a maid to becoming the wife of a wealthy man. Within a year, she had everything anyone could dream of: big houses, expensive clothes, and a life that no one could have imagined for her. The thing is, she didn't change. Not really. She was still the same kind, hardworking woman she had always been. The only difference now was that she no longer had to clean floors or scrub dishes. Instead, she ran her own businesses and helped people in need, never forgetting where she came from. As for Richard, he was the happiest man I knew. He treated her with respect, love, and kindness. It was the kind of love story you only hear about in fairy tales, except this one was real. Cynthia went from being the maid who worked in Mr. David's house to being the woman everyone admired. She proved that life could change in the blink of an eye, and that sometimes love doesn't care about wealth or status. It just sees the person you are inside.